Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today. Now, let's pass the mic to your MC, Letty Lundquist, to kick off this journey of enduring inspiration.
Want to introduce Don?
Yeah, so this is going to be a chat with our good friend Don Kardong, who, without ice cream, knows that there'd be chaos and darkness in the universe.
Absolutely.
So
you did write some.
Go ahead, Billy.
Don did write some pretty good books.
Yes.
One
Thank
about
you.
101 phone booths to Boston or something.
Well, something like that.
Yeah.
There weren't that many. There were 30.
Yeah, and it was a marathon that the three of us, Ron, Billy, and I ran.
Oh gosh,
1983.
Really? Okay.
But,
so Don, you've run Boston several times, haven't you?
I think I've run Boston maybe 4 times.
You ran in '78. That was my first time. I remember. I mean,
Yeah.
Guys like you and John Lodwick always stood out to me just because you were about a foot taller than me.
Okay. Yeah.
In '78, wasn't that the one where we went up to Exeter before the race?
I remember going to Exeter, and I think it was on that one.
Yeah, because I think it was you and me and Rojas and a couple other people.
Yeah, they were making the first air shoes up there, so that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I ran. I think the best I ever did at Boston was 7th. The year I was probably in the best shape of my life, I ended up dropping out and taking the trolley back because it was a cold, chilly day and my muscles just turned to cement. That was really discouraging. So I haven't had great experiences at Boston. And I did it a couple other times, but I did it one time with old Johnny Kelly. It was his 50th time, and so I ran with him, even though he didn't want me to be there. So I did it that time, and I think I might have done it one other time. I think it was 4.
Don,
what was your best time there?
What?
What was your best time? What was that 7th place?
Oh gosh, maybe it was could have been 2:18, maybe something like that.
No, you had to be faster than that. You were ahead of me in '78, weren't you?
Okay, well, I don't remember my time, so
okay.
Whatever you say it was, I'll accept that as the truth.
Well, in '78, I ran 2:15, and I'm pretty sure you were ahead of me.
I think 78 was the year I dropped out.
Oh, okay. Okay, then you weren't ahead of me.
Well, I did get back. I got back before anybody else because the trolley goes a lot faster than the runners.
Yeah, so maybe you were ahead of me.
It's an interesting story when you drop out. Now they've got those trucks that come along, the vehicle that comes along, and you get in and you see someone, you say, "Hey, Joe, it's great to see you."
Oh boy.
That happening a couple times.
We've all 4 dropped out of Boston, and at one time or another. Benji, did you drop out ever at Boston?
One year I was forced to quit. Rosa Mota was, in her prime, and I was just trying to run. I mean, I was, well past my prime, and I was running near Rosa, and the race set people out to talk to me and said, "You got to drop out because we don't want you pacing Rosa anymore."
Oh goodness.
And it's sort of like, I'm just trying to get to the finish line. I can't hardly keep up with her.
Did you say
pacing her, but they made me quit.
You just said that she was pacing, but she should have to drop out.
But I didn't want to get her in trouble, so I quit.
Did they pull your bib number?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was an unintentional DNF.
Okay, so then Bill and Don and I have something in common. We've all dropped out.
There you go.
Well, yeah.
Well, I did too. I mean,
well, yours was unintentional. Ours was not purposely.
Yeah. I mean, but I also I had my elite career at it, and then I hardly ever ran it again, as a sub-elite.
Well, what was your first marathon, Don? I'm wondering, and can you tell us a little bit about your high school and collegiate career? I think you went to Stanford University.
Right. Well, I started running my sophomore year in high school to get in shape for basketball, and found out that I was a much better runner than I was a basketball player. So I ran all through high school. I did not get any scholarship offers. My times were good, but not great. And but I decided I was going to go to Stanford. And I got in there. And as you remember back then, they had freshman only competition. And I said, well, I could run that. I don't think if I'd had to step up to varsity, I would have had the confidence to do it. But freshman only, yeah, I could do that. So I did that. I did pretty well. And then my sophomore year was on the varsity, and we were second in the NCAA cross country championships to Villanova. So that was quite a exciting time to have gotten that close to winning the whole thing. So I was pretty much hooked at that point and just kind of kept at it. And I think my best performance probably at Stanford was my senior year cross country. I was third overall. It was Prefontaine, Denal Walsh from Villanova, and then I was third. And then that spring was not good for me. My junior year track was good. I was running the 5,000 and ended up fourth. And I think everybody in front of me ended up on an Olympic team at some point. It was Pre and Gary Bjorklund and
Glenn Hilton.
Berkeley.
Oh, okay. So that's
Yeah,
76.
exactly. So I was fourth there. So I had a good collegiate career, and then I decided I would stay down in the Bay Area and just train, just do nothing else but train and eat. And I've just discovered then that I was somebody that responded well to high mileage. So I got my mileage as high as I could. Had a couple of weeks above 140. That was a little too much, but I had some good results there from the high mileage. And it was, but I was still mostly running 2 and 3 miles or 5,000. Excuse me. And so I was running indoor races in the spring of 1972, and I ran at I think it was in Oakland, and ended up running a 2 mile in 8:34, I believe, something like that. And the president of our track club, West Valley Track Club, asked me and myself, Duncan McDonald, and one of our other teammates if we would come run the marathon the next day. So the day after running a hard 2 mile, I ran my first marathon, and it was 5 mile loops, and then the rest of the distance to make up the full marathon. And I just was winging it. I just had no idea what I was doing, but I ended up running 2:18, a little over 2:18. So I said, well, that's pretty good. I should think about doing this as my main event at some point. Unfortunately, that spring that was 72. I got mono, probably from training as hard as I was training. And so it kind of knocked out my aspirations to make the 72 Olympic team. But I gotten good enough that I thought, I've got to give this another 4 years and see if I can make it in 76. So that's started on my path to eventually making the 76 Olympic team in the marathon, because I decided that was maybe where my future was.
And your track club was West Valley Track Club?
West Valley Track Club, yeah. It's in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area.
Was that?
It was a well-known club back then.
Yeah,
Duncan McDonald was part of that.
he was, yeah. Duncan was in there. Yeah.
What did you run in high school? What kind of times?
Oh gosh, I think my best 2 mile was maybe 9:24. I ran I ran the 880 in 158 something, and really didn't get to run the mile very much, but I think I was a 4:28 miler. And I really, to be honest, I just lost my drive by my senior year. So I started like gangbusters. Sophomore year was doing great, and then junior year I was a little bit better, but senior year I just was just coasting, and it showed. So all the people that I had beaten pretty easily before that were beating me at our rival school, and like I say, I didn't get any scholarship offers because people were looking at some kind of mediocre times, and nobody was interested. So
Well, Don, I know that, you're from Spokane, and that's a city famous for another runner named Jerry Lindgren.
right, except I'm not from Spokane. I live here now, but I'm actually grew up.
You weren't born there.
Yeah, you're from the Bay
outside
Area,
the
aren't you?
state. Yeah, I was no, I'm from actually I grew up in Bellevue, Washington, and went to
Oh,
school in Seattle at Seattle Prep. So it kind of Bellevue and Seattle was where I grew up, and I moved to Spokane in 1974 when I took a teaching job. So that I've been here ever since. But yeah, you're right. I mean, when I moved to Spokane, I thought, wow, this is a great running town. You had Jerry Lindgren had just really done wonders to distance running scene in the United States. He was spectacular, and then Rick Riley came along. Rick Riley set the high school 2 mile record, and there were a whole bunch of really good runners from Spokane. But when I moved here, I couldn't find them. I mean, I say I couldn't find them. I knew where they were, but they were all on different schedules, and so at least initially, I didn't have anybody to run with. I was just kind of on my own, just training on my own and trying to make the 76 Olympic team. And like I say, I've been here ever since, and it is, especially now, a really good running town. But and it was then too at the very top end. There just was not a lot of people getting together to train.
Well, Don, with Bloomsday, when I came in for Bloomsday and first time I had been to Spokane, I saw your hills. And I think hills make good distance runners.
There we go. Yes, our Bloomsday course has a couple of pretty good hills there. So, and there's a lot of hills around the area. So if you want to run hills, you can do it. Anymore, I try to avoid them, but they were good to train on back in the day.
yeah. So Pat was just telling me, Pat Tyson was just telling me that you had a recent surgery for knee or hip.
I had a knee replacement in about a year and a half ago, my right knee. And prior to that, I had meniscus surgeries on both knees, but I kind of had to go beyond that and actually replace the one knee. So, and it's great now. It's better than anything else in my body. Everything else is having problems, but my fake knee is doing really great.
It'd be nice if we could replace a lot of the other parts of our bodies, wouldn't it?
I wish they could.
Hey, so how'd the meniscus go? Because I have a torn meniscus, and I trying to hold off about going in for surgery. Do you recommend that surgery?
Yeah, I think it seemed like each time I had a meniscus surgery, I was good for probably another 3 or 4 years. So, they don't really repair it, although I hear they sometimes do now. But back when I was getting them, they just kind of reshape it so it doesn't hurt afterwards. And it was very, very effective, although eventually, my knee just wasn't going to get better unless I replaced it. So yeah, I highly recommend it. In fact, the knee replacement has really been awesome. And I keep thinking eventually I'll have to do the other one because they both are about the same age and have been through the same things. And so, but so far, once I replaced the right knee, the left knee has felt better for whatever reason.
I think, Don, the doctors, the surgeons are so good today. And because so many people are, I think, turning to this kind of surgical work. Look what, the story with Joan Benoit when she had that little plica band in her knee, but has had knee issues for a long time, but they seem to be repairable. So it's almost like nothing stops us anymore, and I think that the doctors are just so good today. Their
Yeah, I
knowledge.
mean, you're exactly right, Bill. I mean, I every once in a while I just sort of think, what if we had the same medicine that we had when I was growing up? I mean, I would have been done long ago
Yeah.
because when with the meniscus being bad, or else they would have done some real drastic thing and opened up the whole knee, tried to fix that meniscus, and then sewed it back up, and then I would have been off for 6 months or a year. So the things they can do now are just miraculous. And
Yeah. If the medicine that when I was a kid was what I had, I'd be dead.
yeah, there you go. Yeah. So really, I don't take any of that for granted, and I want to run down my orthopedic guy and tell him again how much I appreciate him, giving me more years of being able to get out there. It's just been great.
Don, I think another thing, is that in our era, since we are people from the first running boom, the numbers of really, really top-notch physical therapists and massage therapists, they were pretty few and far between. And I remember Benji telling me once, well, do you go for massage therapy, muscular therapy? And I said, huh? And I didn't really know about that. We weren't able to recover so good, I think. That was part of the tricky thing. We didn't have the knowledge of exercise science that is available to the young athletes of today.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't have any serious injuries when I was in college, um, but the way they treated them seemed pretty barbaric now. Yes, almost. They really didn't have a lot of knowledge of what they were doing. They were just kind of winging it, I think.
Yeah.
But they did what they could, and like I said, I didn't have many injuries, so I didn't have to worry too much about it. But some of my teammates who would get things, and man, they'd be out for a long time, and
Yeah.
I think now they could get fixed pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I first remember your track and field news interview story. I think that's one of the first times you just broken 13, I think, as the third American break 13 for 3
Oh yeah.
Tell us that story about you got a interview in the mail.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got an interview, and I guess they sent me a questionnaire to fill out.
Yeah.
And they asked me what my favorite distance was, and I said 1 light year. I've always liked it.
And that's where the
But
chaos and darkness came from, wasn't that?
well, I think the chaos and darkness quote came a few years later. Uh, let's see, who was it? One of the reporters, I think it might have been Paul Perry was working for Nike's magazine, and he came to Spokane and just sort of hung out with me for a day, and 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 the quote kind of came out of me then. Because I think we went out for dinner, had dessert, and I just said, without ice cream there would be dark chaos and darkness, and he put it in the magazine, and I think it might have not gotten much beyond that, but then they did that book of running quotes, and it was in there. I had a few of my quotes in there, and I think that's where a lot of people spotted it. And it's sort of funny because now I get contacted by people usually who own ice cream shops all over the world, really, that want to use my quote, and they go ahead. So I hear about it in Southern England and someplace out in Asia and all over the US. So it's pretty fun.
Ice cream in Asia is a pretty rare occurrence.
I guess.
Remember when we were there, Ron, you were there, I think, with us in Beijing, and we couldn't find ice cream. In fact, there it was hard to find at all.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably not like that now, but this was back in the mid 80s. It was, dairy products were few and far between.
Probably
Thinking
right.
of running in Asia, yeah, it's kind of hard to find a meal that you want to get ready for a race for. I know Bill and I were over there in '83 together,
Mhm.
and trying to remember where we could find a decent meal before your race.
What did you finally find?
Oh man, so always rice is a staple.
Right.
So
I was
yeah,
wondering about that.
I'm trying to Bill. I don't remember really having anything other than
I remember the big meeting in the Great Hall, and
yeah,
we actually did have Beijing duck, which I love. That was just delicious.
Peking duck. Yeah,
Yeah, that was just delicious food.
oh,
But
that was good. Yeah, yeah.
we were there.
That was after the race though.
Oh, that was after the race?
Yeah, that was afterwards.
Uh, I was so destroyed in that race, which you won, Ron, and you were complaining of an injury and going for acupuncture. And I thought, well, I guess Ron's not going to be too serious or something. And Gary Bjorklund was our other teammate. And
Yeah,
I think I know I think I made it to about 24 miles. It was held in the heat of the day in September. It was about
yeah.
85 degrees, I think,
Ooh,
Oh, it was brutal.
and
Yeah.
no shade. So it was kind of like the tough old days of marathoning, which we all went through when everyone started the race following the Boston Marathon, 12 noon, run in the heat, so that you can do it.
Well,
I
on
got
that
another
trip.
question for Don.
Oh,
So in '76, you and Tony were running together in the trials.
right.
When did you have to tell him I got to go?
It was about well, he actually went ahead a little bit, somewhere around 18 miles or so. And he was sort of that distance they had, whatever it was, 20 yards or something for quite a while. And then he started to falter. And so I maybe passed him at about 22. I may have said something to him to the effect of, let's go or whatever, because we were kind of, uh, hoping we were going to move all the way out up to the top three, but I don't think Bill would have liked that much.
I was
Um,
hanging on. What I wonder, Don, do you recall the weather that day? Wasn't it a bit warm?
it was a bit warm. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was hot, but it was a little bit on the warm side. I don't remember it very much, so that means it was probably pretty comfortable. But it does seem like it's a little warm. I know.
It was bright and sunny from the pictures I've seen.
Okay, yeah. So
where
a lot
were
of
those trials?
In
they were in
Eugene.
Eugene.
Where? Oh, that's right. They were in Eugene. Yeah.
Yeah.
My old college coach, Bob Budsby, was 11th in the trials in
Oh, really?
'76. Yeah.
Ah,
I remember that name. I
But
remember sharing a glass of water with Frank. Remember, Frank made a break at about 6 or 8 miles, and Barry Brown went with him. So I followed him. And this was classic Frank trying to bust things up to get in a position of, now I can relax a little bit or something. And I got a side ache immediately. And do you remember anything like that, Don, seeing Frank make his move? But it
no.
was
Um, I I don't remember when. Well, you and Frank got away. I just it had to have happened pretty early relative to where I was, and I was holding myself. Well, both Tony Sandoval and I were holding ourselves back. He was more nervous about it than I was because we were. It was a long way up to get to make it to the team, and he would say, "Are you sure we're supposed to be this far back?" And I was relatively confident that we were doing the right thing. Um, but and as it turned out, I was able. It worked out for me. He might have been better off going a little earlier, but I don't know.
so then you get off to Montreal. How did that race develop for you?
Well, I did the same. I had the same strategy because I had this every marathon I'd ever heard about, or I don't think I was able to had ever watched one on TV. But it seemed like everybody went out. Everybody that had a chance of doing well went out in the lead pack, and everybody except one or two would drop off after a while. And so I felt like if I kind of hung back and ran a more conservative early pace that I could move up and sort of nail a lot of those guys that were dropping off the leap pack. And that's kind of the way it happened. I just was was running more of more faster than I had in the trials early on, but I still was kind of hanging back. In fact, I tell people that I was a sixth grade classroom teacher at the time, so I kind of related to the kids that were watching along the marathon route. And I got to the first water station. I took my water and took a gulp or two of it, and then I saw a kid standing along the side, and I thought, well, this would be funny. I'll throw him my water bottle, and that'll be a souvenir that this kid will always remember. So I did that, and he did. He ran over and got the water bottle, and so I said, well, that worked out pretty well. And basically, what I was trying to do is keep my mind off the competition and just relax. And so I got to the next water station about 3 miles later, and I did it again. I think that time there might have been a little girl that was along the way. Here's a souvenir. Fortunately, and the word in French for souvenir is souvenir, so they all understood what that meant. So that was at 6 miles. So this was all keeping me pretty relaxed and dissociating from the intense competition part of it. The third station, though, we were in a part of Montreal that was kind of residential, and so there's no crowds along the way, but I saw a couple of guys sitting on the front porch of their house. I thought, well, I'll throw them my water bottle. And so I give this thing a good throw, hey, souvenir. At first I thought it was a great throw. It was going to go right to them. Then it looked like it was going to go right through their picture window they were sitting in front of. I said, my God, Don, you're in the race of your life, and you're going to create some kind of bizarre international incident here in Canada. And I'm just appalled with myself. But the water bottle came down and it just caught the eave of the house and bounced down onto the lawn. And I took a deep breath. And I said, okay, I think it's time to get serious now about the competition. time to associate rather than dissociate. And that's when I started to move up and pretty, intensely catching people. And so at first it was pretty easy to catch people. And eventually I caught up to Bill, who was having one of his only bad races in that period of time. That's too bad.
So where was how far back were you at one time, and then how did you eventually work up to?
I mean, I think I might have been back in about 30th at some point. I don't really know because the information wasn't that good that we were getting. And the thing was, as I was moving up, I know I'm catching people, but I don't know what place I'm in until somewhere there. I think maybe I caught Bill around 16 or 17 miles, something like that.
I think so.
And somewhere right after that, somebody, a spectator says, you're 30 seconds out of a bronze medal. Well, I could look up and see, I could see a couple runners up there. And I didn't know who they were, but it was Lasse Veron, Jerome Drayton, and Carl Lismont. Yeah. So I just kind of kept trying to reel them in from then on. It was getting harder because was catching better runners, and I was more tired too. But finally, then I got somebody yelled to me, "You're 6 seconds out of third place," because I had just about caught them. And
what place where in the race was that?
That was somewhere around 18, 19 miles, somewhere in there.
And you were only 6 seconds out of the bronze at that point?
Yeah.
Oh my.
And so, and then I passed all three of them they all went in for water, and I wasn't taking any more fluids because I was getting a side ache. And so they all three went in to get water, and I just passed all three of them. And I go, my God, I'm in third. I'm going to get the bronze. And but unfortunately, I still had a few miles left to go, and I kept, trying to relax, and my legs my muscles were all cramping up, and but I said, just relax, you'll be fine. Just here, get to the stadium, and don't tighten up. And then I think it was around 25 miles that I heard footsteps, and that was Lismont, and he had rallied from when I passed him and was catching me, and we went mano a mano from there all the way down Sherbrooke Street until we took and then that's right outside the stadium, where there was almost like a clover leaf where you went around and then downhill into the stadium. And as we headed down that hill, my legs just started to cramp something fierce. He did a smart move and surged on the downhill. And I just could not go with him. I thought maybe when I got to the track and it was flat, in the next lap and a half, I might catch him, but I'm not sure I caught it. I moved up at all once I got to the stadium, and ended up 3 seconds behind him. So it was my best marathon ever, and time wise, and awfully close to the medal. And there you go.
Well, you should be a medalist. I mean, with Sierpinski,
Yeah. I didn't know Jerpinski at all. And of course, it's been
well, we
years later.
didn't. We didn't at that time.
No.
Do you think now that the revelation with all the drugs that the Eastern Bloc countries were doing, and he admitting that he was a part of that system, don't you feel cheated a little bit now? I mean,
Well,
I feel like you were cheated.
yeah, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time on it, but and even if I wasn't the one involved, I sort of think, here's a country that cheated as part of a national program. It wasn't just a few guys with some coaches that weren't following the rules. It was a country that had a plan to take drugs and get medals to prove that they were wonderful.
Yeah.
And it went on for over a decade, and nothing's been done really to address that, and may never be done. But I think no matter what, they should do something to recognize that happened, and they haven't. And maybe they're going to get around to it eventually, but
Well, Don, remember, just recently there was something on Let's Run, and there was discussion about federations being given okayed by the International Olympic Committee to take a look at these shadow medals, the 3 Olympiads that East Germany took part in, because there was such a big doping program going on there. And so I wonder if who's in charge, how can some part of USA Track and Field apply or contact? Is there someone to be contacted at USA Track and Field in regards to this effort? And I told Frank about this too, of course. And so but in the end, we take a look at the cases like when Shalane Flanagan received a medal years later, and I think Kurt Goucher had a tough experience too, where she couldn't receive. They later found out a runner she had run against had cheated. Overall, it seems like the American distance runners were always pretty clean. We were clean. There was no doping. It just didn't happen. So I think it's almost like, I think USA Track and Field owes it to the sport, but also in particular, there's someone like you or Frank Schroeder, who got knocked out. And I would move up from 40th place to 39th place that day.
or higher, because East Germany wasn't the only country cheating. I mean, you think back to Krachitelova from Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she was clean.
I just don't know if we have the paperwork on a lot of those.
I mean, it's
Well, the problem, do you think that the
U.S. is not proven?
The International Olympic Committee, though, do you think they would not address this because it would give the Olympics a black eye? And do you think they want to just leave the controversy and leave it just sweep under the rug?
Well, I kind of, yeah, I mean, I kind of think that they don't want to keep, addressing stuff that happened years ago. I understand that, but it still irks me that they haven't done anything. And I think at one point, the last time I was kind of following this fairly closely, the International Olympic Committee said, "Well, we're not going to go back any farther than 6 years." And then almost in the breath, they said, "Well, we can't
what
go
Billy
back
was
any farther
talking
than
about,
6 years because it's a rule we just made."
Billy was talking about the swim federations are actually pursuing medals that the East Germans got. So the swimming federations are going back to that era.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
good.
World Athletics would be who would have to do it. And it's conceivable, but not likely, that World Athletics might say, okay, you can appeal for medals that came from that time frame.
Well, if one sport does it opens the door for the rest of them.
Oh yeah, it does. It's just whether the federations want to do it, and
Yeah.
because you got to have a federation that is swimming. I think is more aggressive about these things than track and field.
Okay.